Go.
Sure I have my picks correct.
Yeah, I got those picks up. Feel free to keep your phones out.
Oh.
Phones allowed. We'll get you on the Wi-Fi. Be our guest is the password. All caps. PLT guest is the... Yeah, all three words capitalized. Yeah, sorry, first letter, excuse me. I don't know. Oh, I've got AT&T. Okay, we're live. Happy Friday, everybody. We are now less than 24 hours removed from the start of both the 100K and 50K here at Canyons by UTMB. This is our official fantasy prediction show. My name is Dylan Bowman. Thank you for joining us. While you're here, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Jump in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And when we get to it, make sure you throw your predictions in there too. I'm joined by two fantastic co-hosts today. Mr. Hayden Hawks is back. Hayden, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, man. Doing well.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's a great day here in Auburn. Perfect weather for the races this weekend.
Everybody I heard from after our show yesterday was like, Hayden's a natural, man, and he's going to be on the mic tomorrow for the full 100K and 50K broadcast. Also joining us, another natural from the Bay Area running icon, Mr. David Lam. David.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I think the weather is polar opposite from how it was last year, where we got here and it was like 90 degrees, and now it's nice, gloomy, kind of cool, a little misty, and yeah, we're good.
A little moody morning here. I'm rocking a nice fleece here in the studio this morning. Tomorrow will be a little bit more California-like sunshine predicted, but mild temperatures. We'll get to that here in a bit. David, quickly, do a quick introduction of yourself, because I think obviously people are familiar with Hayden. I said you're a natural. You helped us on the Big Alta broadcast where everybody identified you also as somebody who needs to get more airtime. So just say hello to the audience here.
Yeah, like Dylan said, I live in San Francisco, California, in the Bay Area. I've been there for around 7-8 years. I think anytime you kind of put a mic in front of a trail running nerd, like it makes for pretty good content in general, and that was my experience at the Big Alta. And I'm pretty stoked just to kind of be here. I think this weekend is one of the more prolific ones in North American trail running, and it's just kind of nice to be here and riff off, like throw out names, throw out like training protocols, everything that kind of leads up to race day. And I'm happy to be here.
David was also a professional poker player for 11 years, so being on the prediction show, I think, is appropriate for you.
I think that's the next step of Freetrail Fantasy, is start some betting lines and some live betting. I think it'll be a lot of
We'll
fun.
get to our stone cold locks later on today, and eventually Travis Longcar will get the prop bets going, like who hits the first aid station first. We can speculate on all that stuff together. But
I grew up right next to Las Vegas, dude. You should have grown up where I grew up.
Spent a lot of time in Vegas. Yeah.
All right, well, welcome both. Thank you both for being here. So again, this is going to be a fantasy-specific prediction show. If you're not familiar, you got to go to fantasy.freetrail.com. Check out the platform that Travis Longcar has built from scratch. We have 4 races going on this weekend, including 2 here at Canyons, the 50K and the 100K. In addition to those 2, we're playing the Four Sisters race on the Golden Trail World Series, which is happening in China this weekend. Another incredibly deep, incredibly exciting race happening in the shorter distance trail running world. And then also Madeira Island Ultras happening this weekend. So 4 races. Go to fantasy.freetrail.com, pick 5 deep for both the men and the women. And again, we did a full race preview here in studio yesterday where Hayden Hawks and Emily Hawgood contributed their expertise as to who to look out for. So make sure you go back if you missed the show and listen or watch that before you put your ballots in, because that knowledge will probably help you construct your fantasy team. Race day tomorrow starts at 4:30 a.m. Is that right, Hayden?
Yeah, we got to be in studio at 4 a.m., so it's going to be an early morning. But yeah, the live starts at 4:30. The race starts at 5 a.m.
Yep. And then the 50K starts just outside the window here at 6 a.m. in the heart of Auburn, California. We should say we are broadcasting literally right next to the finish line for all the races. We are right in downtown Auburn, California, the endurance capital of the world. And the vibes are high. It feels great to be here. We had an awesome shakeout run with Hoka this morning. Everybody's excited for an amazing weekend of racing. And I guess we should also give kudos to the 100-mile runners who started about 2 hours ago up at China Wall. So Godspeed to the 100-mile racers. About 300 people took to the start line there today. It looks like Canyon Woodward and Lindsay Dwyer are out to the early lead. So you can follow along on live.utmb.world for the live tracking of that. Moving on to the show. I wanted to first start with you, Hayden. One of the things we talked about at Black Canyon, where you were the champion in a spectacular, beautifully executed race, was the commitment level necessary to achieve things like that. And one of the things you described to me before your victory there was the dress rehearsal that you did leading into the race. So enlighten the audience as to what you did before Black Canyon, how it contributed to the race, because I think it's relevant to athlete performances we might see here this weekend.
Yeah, I think, with the sport getting more and more competitive, I think it's more important to prepare properly for these races. Go out, do some training on the course, do sessions on, specific sections of the course where you might have struggled in the past or where you maybe don't have as much experience. And that's what I did at Black Canyon. So about 4 weeks out from the race, I went out. I stayed in a small Airbnb in Mayer, Arizona, and did some course work. I did the course over, I think, 2 or 3 days, and did one really big day where I did about, 30, 40 miles on the course, near course record pace. And just to see where I was, to see where my fitness was, to see what I thought I could do on race day, and use it kind of as a dress rehearsal and a good training run to just make sure I was prepared for the race. And I think you're seeing more and more of that in our sport. We're seeing a lot of people going out and doing these things. I'm actually going to be doing that for Western States. I'll be coming back here to Auburn about 4 weeks out from race day to get on the course and do some course work with Dan Jones, who's running Western States. And I followed a lot of people on Strava, followed people in the build up to this race, and I know that some of them have been out here, on the course, doing some training camps with other, competitors or friends. And there's a lot of people actually in the race that are live around this area as well that have been on these trails quite a bit as well. So I do think there's a lot of course knowledge going into both of these races this weekend.
The terrain specificity thing was something that I was thinking about after your victory at Black Canyon too, because I've never been to Cedar City, Utah, but knowing things about the desert Southwest and having followed you on Instagram for many years, the terrain feels similar to the terrain that you probably confronted on the Black Canyon course too. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to train specifically for these events. In other words, from home, you probably had similar terrain to Black Canyon, which probably made you more comfortable on that type of terrain than a lot of other athletes. You also described, though, the full aid station transition simulations that you did. Say more about that, because to me, that's one of those micro 1%ers that can move the needle.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I've been working on recently. So before every race or every year, I try and pick something that maybe I feel like I can work on, whether that be saving a little bit of time, whether that be, upping my nutrition or whatever it is, a few carbohydrates or whatever it is. I do a lot of research. I kind of follow a lot of other sports as well, like cycling and different things like that. And we're seeing a lot of these very marginal gains in these sports making a big difference. And these teams are really working on these things. And so my thought is hey, I'm a professional athlete. Yeah, maybe I'm not getting paid as much as a professional cyclist or basketball player, whatever it is, but I'm still a pro athlete.
You're not on the Shohei Ohtani contract yet?
Yeah,
Come on.
I wish. No, but I'm still a professional athlete, and I need to treat this like my profession. I need to be a pro. And so it's surrounding myself with a team that I trust, a team that I know is going to be able to help me make these marginal gains, and then working with them to try and do that. So, 4 weeks out, like I said, I went out to do some coursework. My crew actually came out with me, And we went through aid station transitions in our training runs to make sure we had that down for race day. And that actually ended up being a huge benefit for me on race day. And I was able to save a lot of time. And I think possibly that could have led to the victory. And it's just these little things, right, that make such a big difference. And that's what I'm trying to work on. I'm not going to give all my secrets out because I do have some things, that I'm working on for Western States as well that I think will make a big difference. But it's working on those things day in and day out, week in and week out, and really trying to, be a pro and be the best pro I can.
It's representative of the advancement that's occurred in the sport in the last 10 years, where now you really do have to operate at that level of professionalism in order to put yourself in position to win one of these golden ticket races. He just brought up sort of something that you and I were riffing on this morning, David, maybe tee Hayden up on some of these other marginal gains things that Hayden has been a pioneer on.
Yeah, and I'll just also add that, like, I think the professionalization of the sport kind of trickles down to, like, the mid-pack to the backpack people. Mm-hmm. It's like, people who kind of work jobs and they, the trail running and the ultra running is part of their hobby, but they take it seriously and they, like, commit themselves to trying to get out on the course, trying to, like, emulate what they see from the professionals. And I think it just uplifts us all, the whole sport. But I think what Debo was talking about was, we were just talking about kind of by the numbers. I think, before in the old days of ultra running, it'd just be like you duct tape a bottle to your hand and, like, whatever they had, like, if someone gave you a granola bar, you ate it, and that was fueling. But now after your Black Canyon 100K finish, it was like Precision Fuel, who's your sponsor, they came out with, like, an infographic about, like, how many grams of carbs you're doing now, or, like, milligrams of sodium you're gaining and losing. And I don't know, for stuff like that, I'm mid backpack type of runner, and, like, I love seeing that type of information, and it was really cool to see.
So, and you mentioned yesterday that Matt Daniels had sort of taken a page out of your book. You guys had been talking, and he was pushing that 100 grams of carbs per hour. What I was saying to David this morning is that when I was coming up, we were talking about calories, right? Get 200 calories an hour. Now it's 100 grams of carbs. And that's been a sort of a big paradigm shift, I think, in the nutrition realm. So riff on that a little bit, because I think it's important.
Yeah, I think carbohydrates has actually been the number or the thing that people have focused on in Europe for years.
Yep.
But in the US, for some reason, we're so, I guess, calorie based and focused on the calories. So I started working with a coach that's based out of Europe, and then Precision Fuel and Hydration's, of course, based out of the UK. And they told me, hey, you need to shift focus and you need to start focusing on carbohydrates rather than calories. And so I actually started counting carbs rather than calories. And it makes sense, right? Because glycogen, carbohydrates is what fuels your muscles during these endurance events. And you need to be, like, getting in carbohydrates rather than focusing on calories, because calories can come from different sources. But carbohydrates is the fuel that you need to be replenishing or replacing, because that's what you're actually depleting in an endurance event like this. And so that's been the focus. And, with the help of Precision Fuel and Hydration, like, they've really helped me dial in things and really get all that down. They're literally, like, talking to me hours after the race to make sure they're getting all my numbers down and helping me focus on trying to improve that race in and race out. And it's been a process, but I've gotten to a point now where I feel very comfortable with my fueling, my hydration. And I think you're seeing this with a lot of athletes like Matt Daniels, is they're realizing, like, hey, if I want to, perform and win these races, I got to do this. And I'm not the pioneer in this. I mean, I definitely am doing a lot with this, but, like, Jim Walmsley, I learned from Jim Walmsley. Yeah. Jim Walmsley's been doing this for years. And honestly, I think this is maybe one of the things that's elevated him in our sport, is he's been on top of his fuel and he's been working on it and trying to figure it out for years and doing some runs in the canyon with him and learning from him. I was like, hey, I need to focus on this. And like David said, it's not just the pros. It's the middle of the pack, the back of the pack that can benefit from this as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of resources out there for people to, like, learn from and get this down.
I heard Jim was in the canyon with Ryan Hall the other day. Somebody told me that on the shake. Oh, it was you this morning. Yeah.
It's a great photo of, I think it's on Ryan Hall's Instagram page, but it's literally them and Ryan Hall, obviously tons of muscle now, but it's a pretty funny, stark photo.
God, it'd be so
I
fun.
think I have a body like Ryan Hall. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
I
After you
wish,
retire,
dude.
after you
Dang,
retire,
dude,
get on the bench
that guy's
press.
jacked, man.
Man, what a fun! It'd be so cool to just be in that group, in the canyon, hearing the conversations between those two great champions. Talk about the training though a little bit, Hayden, because this is also something that's developed a lot, and something that was certainly on display in the video that Ryan created and published this week on the Freetrail YouTube channel featuring Adam Peterman, where he does one of the uphill flat workouts, which I think were sort of popularized by Killian Jornet, and now people are doing a lot of these double threshold type workouts. So maybe talk anything that's changed specifically in your training recently that maybe was influenced by other people or from sports science, or just because I know you're sort of on the cutting edge of this type of stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is specificity. I think for the longest time, we just kind of like did track and field or marathon workouts and brought them over, and just kind of like people were just doing the same thing, right? It didn't matter if you were on the track, if you were on the roads, you're on the trails, you were kind of all doing the similar type of workouts, right? But now we're realizing like specificity is so important. This is something I've done actually since the beginning of my career, is instead of doing my workouts on the track or on the roads, which sometimes I still do that, I was doing most of my workouts on the trails, and on trails very similar and very specific to what I was training for. And I think that's the biggest change like that I've made, I guess, is doing more and more of those type of workouts on very specific terrain, which makes sense, right? Like I'm not running a flat road when I'm racing. I'm running rolling trails, or I'm running very steep uphills or very steep downhills. And depending on what I'm training for, I need to be doing workouts and intensity and long runs on the similar type of terrain and with the similar elevation profile and different things like that, so that I'm, I guess, training my muscles, training everything to be able to handle those specific things that I'm going to encounter in a race. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more of with the elites. It's one thing I really stress as a coach is get as specific as possible, especially in those like 6 to 8 weeks before a race. Yeah. You need to be getting very specific.
And it goes back to what we were just talking about with your dress rehearsal on the Black Canyon course. So there's at least a couple athletes that are going to be racing this weekend who I know made the effort to come out and run on the Canyons course, including Danny Moreno in the 50K, Trayson Knopp in the 100K, who was 6th at Black Canyon, had a great performance for him, and I think is coming in as one of the potential breakouts of race weekend. MK Sullivan, both Trace and MK live just over the hill in Reno, so easier to get on the course. I don't know if you noticed anybody else who...
Yeah, I know like my Bay Area friends like Matt Seidel, Anna Cassius, who are both in the 100K, are definitely golden ticket hunting. They did a 3-day they stayed, I think, in Forest Hill and just kind of did parts of the course and covered the whole course across like 3 days.
So, Danny Marino, she came out here and did a camp.
Yeah.
And so she's been on the course. And I think the other thing too is a lot of these athletes have experience on these trails, because a lot of them have ran Western States or they ran Canyons last year. So there is a lot of experience on the trails out there for sure.
Yeah. Maybe one other thing before we get more towards sort of the prognostication for the weekend. I had Lottie Brinks on my podcast this week, and one of the things we were talking about is athletes who have the ability to win in multiple different styles. We're talking specifically about like Tyler Green, where he's finished second at Western States 2 separate times and in 2 totally different styles. One where he hung back and ran through the field onto the podium, and then last year where he was sort of in the mix the whole time, sort of solidly in 2nd or 3rd place early in the race and finished on the track in 2nd place. And I don't know, it just felt to me like that's the direction our sport's heading to, where like the top pros really have to have a lot of different arrows in their quiver and be able to race and compete in a lot of different styles and on a lot of different types of courses. Comments from the panel on that?
Yeah, I think like from what I've seen of athletes that are able to do that, it takes a level of kind of confidence in yourself, whether you get it from training or you get it just kind of from your own accomplishments. It's actually really cool to see, because like, I think if you were to classify certain runners, you're like, oh, he's a front runner. And you know what that means. Like he just kind of leads races, and if he blows up, he blows up, he or she. And then there's people that are like just real in folks from behind. But yeah, I think the dynamicism of like someone who's just able to do both, it's pretty rare. I mean, I could probably name like 3-4 people,
Yeah.
in the whole sport.
Yeah, it's like, Zach Miller was always famous for being the guy who was hot off the front. Like you and Walmsley sort of race in a similar style. Like it would be weird for me to see Hayden like hanging back in 10th place, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think apart from Hayden, if you go back to Walmsley, it was like there was videos on YouTube of coming out from his UTMB where he was like in 30th, 40th place,
Yeah.
and just like coming from, like, oh my gosh, it's like,
Yeah.
is this not the day? And then
Yeah.
ultimately it was his day, but yeah, it's
Unreal.
cool stuff like that.
You have to be comfortable and you have to be confident in yourself to race from the back sometimes, and I think like this is maybe when I was younger, I didn't have that confidence. And I was like, I just need to race from the front because I don't want to lose, the front place guys. But now like I'm realizing like, hey, you have to have confidence to hold back a little bit and know like what your game plan is, and know if you execute your game plan, more than likely you're going to win.
Yeah.
And it's running your own race, right? And that's so important. Like you said, Tyler Green does such a good job at this. And I think you're seeing it with even Jim, even myself. Like we're racing a bit different than we were when we were younger. And I think that just comes with maturity and experience.
Yeah. So maybe Hayden, say a few words if you were just going to predict the dynamic of the race tomorrow, or maybe you could say like a couple different scenarios and how you might react to it. Cause I think this would be really interesting for the audience, right? Like one scenario you could see is like the pack is all together early, right? Or you could see a scenario where somebody who's a legit contender goes hard off the front, and how that impacts the strategy and the psychology of the rest of the top men and women in the race.
I think there's a lot of things that could, I guess, determine the outcome of the race, at the beginning and the end, of course, is there a lot of these people are using this kind of as like a training run for Western States. So they might race a little differently than we might have seen them race like a Western States or something. So that could change things up a little bit. I think the other thing we got to look at is there's a lot of young athletes in this race, and then there's a lot of experience. There's like a good range of athletes in here. And the young athletes are going to race maybe a bit riskier, trying to prove a point or trying to get a sponsor or something like that, get some camera time at the start. So you're going to see, I think, some of that, but you're also going to see some of these pros that are going to see right through that and be like, hey, I know what's going on here. I've been here before. This isn't, my first rodeo. I know what to do. And so I do think you will have some people going out pretty hard. I do think some people like Drew Hullman, some of these people might still take a little bit of more risk than they have in the past because they know they need to be in contention, but I don't think they're going to fall into that trap. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's probably going to be pretty similar to what we've seen in the past. And I do think at the end, experience and maturity will probably be what pays out the most.
Yeah. Because, just remembering back to what happened at Black Canyon, our boy Matt Seidel went hot off the front. You guys were not far back at Bumblebee Mile 20, maybe a minute or 2 minutes. But, those types of dynamics are the types of things that really do impact the psychology of the rest of the athletes in the field. And for example, tomorrow, if Adam Peterman's getting a gap or Katie Scheid is hot off the front, it does change the way everybody else is thinking about their own race execution. You mentioned Drew Hullman, and I felt bad after our broadcast yesterday. There's a few people who I feel like we didn't spend enough time talking about in the preview. And Drew, as we mentioned, is sort of always the guy who is just quietly so consistent and so freaking good. Ryan enlightened us to a funny joke today that, he finished 5th at World Championships last year. He was 5th at CCC. He's been 5th at Western States. He's also finished 3rd at Western States, but apparently they took a photograph next to the never second van and posted it and said never second, always 5th or something. But anyway, I just wanted to open that up to Drew Hullman. Like, he seems like kind of one of those athletes too who can race in multiple different styles. He very rarely makes a massive mistake, but then, you have seen him where he wins in fairly dominant fashion like he did at Lake Sonoma last year. You know, Drew.
Yeah, and I think to your point, he's a prime example of that dynamic runner because you look at his time at the Cape Town, like it seemed like he was just steady, and that course is super technical, super steep, and he ran a great time for that course, and that's a late in the year race, so like to kind of have that kind of fitness and have that kind of a drive to race. I'm kind of just tired of people not bringing Drew Hullman in the conversation. He's just so consistent. I mean, great cross trainer. I saw him dance his ass off at Patty O'Leary's wedding to the wee hours of the night. And, and on one hand, you're like, does he take running seriously? And because if you're on his Strava, you don't see all of his activities. Mm-hmm. But then when you see him race and you see him train, you're like, oh, he is super serious and he's super good.
He posts on Instagram like twice a year, so maybe that's why.
Quiet but deadly.
Quiet but
deadly. Yeah, Drew is such a good person too. Like I was in Boulder actually a couple weeks ago, and I was running and I ran past this house, and I don't think he knew I was in town. But I was like, "Hey, Drew, how's it going, man?" And he kind of looked at me, and he was like talking to his neighbors, like, Drew, typical Drew, super big smile on his face, like nicest guy in the world, having a good time with his neighbors. And he turns around, he just gives me a big old smile. Hey, Hayden, how's it going? And I was like, man, this guy he's such a good dude.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible racer. And honestly, like he's one of the guys, like I tell my wife this all the time, I cannot make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because if I make a mistake, Drew's going to be right there.
Totally.
And he's always going to be there.
Because he doesn't make mistakes.
He doesn't make mistakes. Exactly. He's such a smart racer.
Yeah, he and Tyler are very similar in
and
that
he
way.
digs super deep. Like I'm thinking about his first finish at Western States, and he was
hospital.
For months.
For I think a couple days.
For months after. I mean,
it
not
was
in the
like
hospital,
4 or 5 days he was in the hospital.
Yeah, and it's like just kind of to override your central governor to dig that deep, especially in a 100-miler. That's really impressive.
That is an advantage to have, even if Sasha probably didn't enjoy it. But shout out to Drew Hullman is what we're trying to get across. The other name we didn't mention at all yesterday that I think we should bring up is Jeff Colt, who's going to be running the 50K tomorrow. Another one of these guys who is sort of really on the upward trajectory in his career and who was top 10 at Western States last year, has been a golden ticket recipient at Black Canyon a couple of years ago. He finished 11th at Western States before he came back and finished in the top 10 last year. So he's sort of like on this continual improvement trajectory. And he also strikes me as somebody who just approaches things very intentionally, very professionally. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add on Jeff Colt.
Is he not coached by Corinne Malcolm?
He is.
Yeah. So I think Eric LaPuma is also coached by Corinne, and those two I would say are pretty similar. Yep. Like very, again, like you said, intentional in how they train. Obviously, like Eric lives out in Vermont, and like they had a crazy winter, and I don't know how much like specific training he was able to get on those mountains, but yeah, I kind of look at Jeff Colt in the same way, and I think if you see him at a starting line, he's you're in for kind of a long day if you're someone.
I had breakfast this morning at my hotel, and I actually ran into Mario Mendoza.
Yep. Mario
Mendoza's here too. Yep. I don't know if we've mentioned him.
No, we didn't.
And he's fit. Like I had a good conversation with him. He, in the last years, he's been doing a lot for his community.
Yep.
Like Mario is very community driven. He does a lot, and he's just a good person, for the community. And he said, yeah, maybe my training wasn't exactly what it should have been during those years. But he's like, now I've started refocusing on my training. And he said, I feel really good going into this race. I feel very fit. He's got a good schedule ahead of him this year.
He's doing the 50K, right?
Doing the 50K. Yeah. So I think Mario will definitely be in contention as well this weekend.
I'm glad you brought him up, man. I identify with that a lot as somebody who, for the last couple of years, has de-emphasized my training and who's trying to get back into it myself. He and I are about the same age, too, I think. I mean, at least we've been in the game about the same time. He's a pastor by trade, a father of 2, I believe. So a lot of things that Mario and I share in common. So shout out to Mario Mendoza. The other name that we didn't really talk about that I think is sort of one of the stories of the weekend, of course, is Molly Seidel. Why don't you get us started on that, David?
Yeah, I mean, Molly Seidel, bronze medalist for the marathon. I was just at the Boston. I ran Boston Marathon last weekend, and anytime you're in Boston and Molly's in town, it's like, might as well be Jesus. Like, it's insane. But the fact that she wants to run this, like the 50K tomorrow, is so cool for our sport. I mean, she's ran like I think Speedgo or something under an alias and all that before.
But yeah, the 28K. So this is her first 50K.
But I mean, just as on a fan level, fan of all running, I think it's so cool that she's here. Yeah.
Anything you want to add? I know you follow the marathon majors and the Olympics and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Molly's got incredible talent. You know, I actually watched her when I was running college, track and field and cross country. She was like, that was when she was winning everything in college. And it was just incredible to see her dominance, you know, in college and then see that transition over into the marathon. And yeah, like I know she's dealt with some injuries off and on over the last years, you know, with a knee patellar issue. I've dealt with the same thing. It's kind of hard to fight through that. But I know that the trails have helped me a lot. You know, staying on dirt, being on softer surfaces has really helped me. And I know that that's kind of why she's doing this as well, to help strengthen her body up to be able to handle the loads that she's putting on in the marathon. And so I do think like she's coming into this with, I guess, a mindset of I want to experience trail running, but also I want to compete. You know, I want to be strong and I want to be able to push myself and have a good race. So I'm just really excited to see what she can do out there. And, you know, hopefully she finds a big love for it and she enjoys herself and she does more of these.
I'll also add that it's really cool. Like she's sponsored by Puma. And I think it's really cool that they're okay with her doing this because, and I think it's a good conversation that's happening right now. Like I've been running pretty often with Anna Gibson, who runs for Brooks. And she's kind of this hybrid athlete. Like she's still at the peak of her track.
She just ran a road mile.
Yeah, and she's getting ready for the trials in summer. But also like, you know, won the Broken Arrow VK last year and like still in trail running. And I was like, you know, maybe Puma was like, hey, let's see what Molly can do here. And maybe she could just do both.
It's so cool.
And she's ran Speedgo. Like the 28K at Speedgo, which this is completely different than Speedgo, right?
A walk in the park.
Yeah, and this is way more in her wheelhouse. Like
Totally.
she's able to use her speed, and she's able to like run on a lot smoother trails that are going to be more similar to the roads. So I do think like this is going to be a lot better race for her than something like Speedgo, and so we'll be able to really see what she can do on trails.
Yeah. To me, again, she was on my show just a couple of weeks ago. It was so fun to chat and connect with her. And it just felt like she belongs in this sport and in this community. And it's going to be so fun to watch her race her first 50K. And she did make it clear that one of her ambitions is to do OCC, which would just be so great for that UTMB World Final week as another storyline, having an Olympic bronze medalist come and test herself at the 50K World Championship. Anything else before we sort of move on to the X's and O's? I wanted to give a quick weather update. Not much has changed. So again, tomorrow it should be kind of ideal racing conditions, a low of 48. It will probably be low 40s up at China Wall. So for our viewers, it's a point-to-point course for the 100K. It's sort of a big lollipop for the 50K. So the the point-to-point course starts up at China Wall, which is just past Forest Hill for anybody who's been up and around the Western States course. So it'll probably be low 40s in the morning, chilly to start, but then a high of 67, mostly or partly cloudy tomorrow. So pretty ideal racing conditions. So I think we sort of covered that yesterday. I don't know if we need to go more into that. So here, this is how I have it set up now. Oh, actually, I have a fun thing to get to, a fun stat to get to before we go to our picks, okay? So, our good buddy Travis Longcar, the pioneer of the fantasy trail running platform and the Trail Runner of the Year award. Shout out to Travis and his software skills. He's also great internet investigator. He's an amazing stat aficionado, and he pulled something that's awesome here. So I have the top 10 all-time performances for the 100K in history, according to the ITRA Performance Index, okay? And I think this is interesting for a specific reason. I'm going to start at number 6 because you'll understand why. Number 6 is Jim Walmsley at Gorge Waterfalls 2017. I just wanted to give a shout out to Gorge. That was before we owned the race, but Jim Walmsley's Gorge Waterfalls in 2017.
Shout out to my buddy Ben Koss, who got second to him that year.
Yeah. That was, I think, Jim's original golden ticket.
Yeah, it was.
So shout out to Jim. Number 5, Adam Peterman Canyons 2022. So that performance from Adam, his first golden ticket, number 5 on the all-time 100K list, according to ITRA. Number 4, Hannes Namberger at Lavaredo 2022. So again, this 100K designation is a little bit malleable. So there's Madeira performances, there's Lavaredo performances, so a little bit longer than 100K there, but it fits in this designation. And then number 3, this is why I wanted to bring this up, Petter Engdahl, CCC 2022. So basically what I'm saying is Adam Peterman, Petter Engdahl have, according to ITRA, 2 of the best 100K performances of all time. They'll obviously be doing battle tomorrow. Ryan, you want to put the graphic up for our viewing audience? You guys can respond or react to that in any way you want.
I think Petter should be higher, to be honest with you.
I do too.
I was there. I witnessed it, man, firsthand. And I was running with Petter for, I think, the first 20-ish miles of the race. And, man, he wasn't being stopped that day. We were going so hard. I remember looking at my watch and be like, man, we are so far underneath course record pace. Yeah. And, I am kind of struggling a bit to keep up. I was coming off Western States and Petter was fresh, but still, I thought this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
This is not sustainable. And he did. He sustained that effort all the way to the finish line, completely demolished the course record. It was just an incredible performance. And honestly, if he can have a day like he had at CCC tomorrow, I don't know if even Adam Peterman can beat him, to be honest with you.
I think Petter is your favorite runner's favorite runner type of guy.
Yeah, totally.
Where if you kind of, if you take him for face value, you're like, who is he? Blah, blah, blah. But then if you know the sport, you're like, this guy's an animal.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the kind of versatility of a runner, and he's super versatile. Third place at the Marathon du Mont Blanc, and CCC win and all that. And I think, if you don't know him, you'll know him soon enough.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about yesterday is his range too, finishing 3rd at the Mont Blanc Marathon last year, which of course is more of a 4-hour race as opposed to a 10-hour race.
He's just really excited to be here too. I interviewed him yesterday and he was like, he's like, there are so many Ford F-150s here.
I'm one of them.
He's like, I've never seen so many trucks in my life.
Welcome to Auburn, California.
Yeah. He's like, I really want to get a breakfast burrito. Yeah. And he said, we're going to a rodeo after the race.
Oh, man.
So he's
the American dream.
Getting the
F-150. Yeah. I wonder if he saw the high-speed chase in downtown Auburn yesterday. We should get to that in a second.
High speed, right?
Yeah, the slowest high-speed chase in history. So anyway, I just pulled up the results from that 2022 CCC just for fun here. So he beat John Albin by 23 minutes in that CCC. John Albin finishing 2nd, of course, one of the best in the world. An absolute
one of his training partners now.
Yeah, one of his training partners. 3rd place that day was Andreas Reiter, an amazing Italian athlete. He was 30 minutes behind Petter at CCC in 100K. And then Shen was 4th, Shen Jiashen from China, 37 minutes back of Petter. So again, he was just on a different planet that day. And one of those really special performances that you may only get once or twice in your career, but clearly indicate that Petter, certainly one of the top favorites. Just for our audience, I think Ryan put it up on the screen, but the top 2 performances for you guys in the 100K was Jim at Tarawera. I forget what year it was. I'll pull it back up. And then Jim at Cape Town, 2021. So again, it's all according to some algorithm. This is only one way to measure things. It's a little bit subjective, but an interesting thing to just riff on a little bit. All right, let's do our picks. Before we do so, just want to give a big shout out to our partners at Hoka. Thank you, Hoka. You guys are awesome. You guys invest more than anybody in the sport of trail running, and we are all better for it, including our friend Hayden Hawks here. Make sure you go to Hoka.com. Check out all the great shoes that they've got. Hayden, you're rocking the Mafate 3? Or is that the 4? That's the 4.
Mafate Speed.
4.
You're a shoe guy. What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
That's actually my favorite Hoka shoe. I've ran. I think I did the Joshua Tree Traverse in that shoe, and it's a really good one.
And Hayden was saying yesterday the Tecton X3 is going to be a game changer. Is that what you're going to run Western States in? Yeah.
I have a kind of a custom one. Jim has it as well. You might have seen him rocking it at UTMB last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much the same shoe, just a little custom for me. But yeah, it's an amazing shoe. It's fast. super responsive, and it's got that dual carbon plate in it, and they've definitely made some upgrades from the Tecton X2.
Yeah. And I know the Speedgoat 6 is coming out. Speedgoat, easily probably the most popular shoe in trail running, has been for a long time. I just had Carl Meltzer on
Another
the pod.
shoe too that is really good on these trails is a Challenger.
Cool.
Check out the Challenger as well. I've been using it this weekend, and it works really good on a little bit more runnable trails.
Yeah, awesome. So again, big thanks to Hoka. Check them out, hoka.com. Grab yourself a pair of shoes or a pair of sweet slides like I've got on here. And also make sure you get your picks in. We're going to go to that in a second. Fantasy.freetrail.com. You're competing for great prize packages from Hoka. Gentlemen, should we get to our picks? Should we talk about the slowest high-speed chase ever? Let's do our picks. We'll close with the slowest high-speed chase ever. All right. I'll get us started here, okay? I'll take the pressure off. And again, the caveat here is that we root for everybody, okay? We're rooting for everybody. We love everybody. It's hard to narrow it down to 5. This is in no way personal. This is just pure speculation to have fun with it. And I guess we should say, too, the vision with this fantasy platform is to encourage more people to just learn about the sport, to follow more of the races, and especially to follow more of the athletes. Fantasy is not an original idea. People play it across many different sports. We were the first people to sort of bring it to trail running, but the whole vision and idea behind it is to get more people to love the sport in the same way that we do, to get people more invested in the athletes like Hayden Hawks, like the athletes who are going to be racing this weekend, to follow their careers and to stay invested in their journeys in the sport. With that all being said, I'll go first, starting with the 100K here. I'll start with the women. I'm going to go top 3. I have Katie Scheid winning, Erin Clark in second, Jade Bellsberg in fourth. And because Katie Scheid already has her ticket into Western States by virtue of her second place performance last year, I have that ticket bumping down to fourth place. Anna Cassius, Bay Area, local, shredder. And then I have Anna McKenna from Australia in fifth. Men's side, Adam Peterman winning, our boy Drew Hullman finishing second, Matt Daniels in third. I do think Drew Hullman will refuse a golden ticket if he gets it, in which case it'll bump down to his good buddy, training partner, Matt Daniels, the Boulder boy, gets his golden ticket back to Western States where he finished fourth a couple of years ago. At fourth and fifth, I have Trayson Knopp in fourth and Pei Quan Yu from China in fifth. Those are my top 5. Lam, you want to go second?
Yeah, sure. I think Katie Scheid seems to be the clear favorite in the women's side in the 100K. I think she might get like top 5, 6 overall. That might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'll go with that take. Second place, I got Anna Cassius, who is here for the golden ticket, and I think she'll take it. I have some biases, like she's one of my training partners, but I think she pulled out of Black Canyon and was able to stay fresh for Canyons and put her eggs in this basket. She metabolizes miles better than I think anyone I've seen, and so she's really fit and really stoked. Originally, I had Megan Roach in third, but she's going to be a DNS for tomorrow. Instead, I switched in Addie Bracey because I was during the time when I was picking this, I was also thinking Addie Bracey. So Addie Bracey third, Anna McKenna fourth. Anna McKenna, Australian, has come close so many times to so many golden ticket races. So I'll put her fourth. A little bit of a dark horse, Mary Denholm, fifth place. She's been crushing a lot of the Boulder segments. She coaches a couple of my friends. We
talked about her yesterday.
Yeah, she's been in this long kind of training cycle that she was supposed to run Berlin to get the Olympic trials, got COVID, and then she got the trials qualifier at CIM, dropped out of the trials, and now just been focusing on Canyons 100K. So, yeah. And then on the men's pick, I got our buddy Petter Engdahl for first, and then Adam Peterman for second. Drew Hullman third. I think I got to go with it. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him first or second either, to be honest. And then I got to go with my buddy Matt Seidel in fourth, another Bay Area guy. I think, he was kind of known for his hot start at Black Canyon. And then since then, I think I've talked with him here and there. He's going to play a little smarter. He's coming off like his banana suit Boston Marathon world record, so he's feeling high off that. And then fifth, my old coach, Matt Daniels. I think he's just kind of been running this year with a chip on his shoulder. And if he dials in his fueling like Hayden was talking about, I think he's going to be a real threat.
So if Petter and Drew refuse their golden tickets, it would go to Matt.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah.
Hayden, you're up, buddy.
All right. Katie Scheid, number 1 on the women's side. Her training's been incredible. She's definitely got that fire. She's got a great crew with Topher and Kim, Gaylord helping her out. They know this area really well, so I think Katie's going to get the win. Second place, I got MK Sullivan. I think MK is a local. You know, she knows the trails really well. She does a lot of training out here. She's got a fire. And I think the biggest thing with her is she's coming in with not a lot of expectations. She just really wants to prove to herself that she can finish 100K and she can run a good 100K after DNFing Black Canyon with an ankle roll. So, I mean, Black Canyon was a good training run for her, and now she can go into this and have a good race. So, MK Sullivan, second. Anna McKenna, number 3. I'm a big Anna McKenna fan. I think her consistency is really impressive. She's got a great opportunity. She has experience on these trails after being top 5 here last year. And I think she's going to finally get her golden ticket because Katie, of course, won't get the ticket. And so it will be MK and Anna. Addie Bracey, number 4. Addie's always in the mix. She's always there. Great leg speed. Incredible athlete. Amanda Basham, number 5. I think Amanda, you know, she's had a couple kids in the past years. She's finally recovered and coming off of that. She had an incredible performance at Kodiak in the fall. She just won a really, actually a very competitive but underrated race in Italy in March. I think that's prepared her well for a good performance here. So I got Amanda Basham at number 5. On the men's side, I have Adam Peterman, number 1. I think Adam is in a really good spot right now, physically and mentally. He's fresh, you know, coming off of this big injury. I think Adam's going to have an incredible performance. He's just really hard to beat on these trails, and I know that firsthand. Matt Daniels, number 2. Of course, Matt's a good friend of mine. He's got his nutrition down finally, and I think Matt is very hard to compete with when he's got that down. Yeah. So I think he's going to have a great day out there. Matt, number 2. Drew Hullman, number 3.
So we just flip-flopped our podium there.
Yeah, so the Boulder boys going 2 and 3. I think Drew is going to probably be typical Drew fashion, come from behind. Maybe not as far from behind, but he's going to pull into that 3rd spot. Eric LaPuma, number 4, always consistent Eric LaPuma. Number 5, Stephen Kirsch. Stephen Kirsch is always there as well. Yep. I think he was 5th at Black Canyon. I think he's going to get another 5th place here at Canyons.
Rad. Good picks, boys. Now you're making me reconsider my ballot. Real quick before we move on to the 50K, I'm going to just provide the picks from our top 2 fantasy predictors on the leaderboard right now. Shout out to Liam Tryon, a.k.a. Aid Station Fireball, and Travis Longcar, who we've referenced here a couple of times. Let's start with Liam here. He said, and we'll just do the top 3. He says, Katie, Aaron, and Jade Bellsberg, 1, 2, 3 in the women. That's exactly what I have, so maybe that portends good things for my ballot as a terrible fantasy predictor myself. Then he's got Peterman, Petter Engdahl, Eric LaPuma, 1, 2, 3 in the men's race. Travis, let's see what Travis said. Okay, Travis has Katie Scheid, Aaron Clark, Anna Cassius on the women's side, Peterman, Engdahl, Hullman on the men's side. So a lot of overlap in those top 3s between a lot of us here. Maybe just predicted finishing times here. I was looking at the winning time when this course was sort of more or less reversed 2 years ago when Peterman and Jasmine Lothar won the race. Adam ran 8:31. It was an uphill course, so I think maybe 40 minutes faster. So I'm going to say 7:50. Jasmine Lothar ran 10 hours and 1 minute, so 10 hours flat basically. So I'm going to call 9:20 for the women's race. Comments from the panel on that?
Yeah, I think Debo, on our run, I was saying like, man, 8 hours just seems so fast. That's like 7:45 pace. But now, kind of looking outside at the weather, I think we might see an 8 hour, and I think the race is going to be tight on the men's side, and it's going to push like a fast time. And then on the women's side, I was thinking right in that 9:20 range. I think it should take the win.
I'm going for a sub 8 hour and a sub 9 hour.
Okay.
I think it would be awesome to see both. I think Katie Scheid is going to be inspired by Courtney DeWalter's finish at Mount Fuji. Courtney was third overall. Was it third? Yeah, third overall. And she was only like 10 minutes off
behind the
win.
overall win.
I think Katie is going to be inspired by that, and I think she's going to have an incredible day and run a historic time here.
Wow, what a great pick. I love it, love it. Sub 8, sub 9, according to the great Hayden Hawks. Amazing. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start winding down here. I gave you guys a prompt to think about. This is our stone cold locks. This is the things that we're sure are going to happen tomorrow. I'll get us started here just to give you guys a few more seconds to consolidate your ideas. I'm saying both Hemmings finish on the podium in the 50K, stone cold lock. And then my honorable mention, stone cold lock, is Drew Hullman is in the top 5. Never second, always 5th, Drew Hullman. Those are my stone cold locks. David, you want to go next?
I hate to go next.
Stone cold locks. This is for the 100K or both races?
Overall, just something that you know is going to happen tomorrow.
I think we're Stone Cold Lock. We're going to see an incredible battle between Jen Lichter and Danny Marino in the women's 50K. That is actually the race that I'm most intrigued, is the women's 50K.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fast, and we're going to see an incredible battle up front. Tabor Hemming will be in there as well. But Danny and Jen duking it out. Really excited for that. And I think the other one is Adam Peterman will get a golden ticket. Adam really wants to get back to Western States. I want him to get back to Western States. I want to battle it out with him and Jim at Western States.
Oh, please.
And hopefully get a sweep of the podium for the Hoka team.
Yeah.
Me, Jim, and Adam.
Oh my goodness. If the three of you guys are doing battle through the canyons and on Cal Street together, I won't be able to sit in my seat in the broadcast booth on the track at Placer High. I will be standing up broadcasting like Pat McAfee does. I forgot, we got to do our 50Ks, but give us your stone cold lock first.
So I thought about this on the run, and I think without naming names, I think the stone cold lock is going to be the women's podium and men's podium on the 50K is going to be decided within 15 minutes. And then on the 100K side, the men's side will be decided by 20 minutes and the women by 30 minutes.
Okay, great. So close racing is your point.
Yeah.
All right, so 50K picks. We can just bang through our top 3 real quick here. Women's side, I have Jen Lichter, Danny Moreno, Tabor Hemming. Men's side, Eli Hemming, Chad Hall, Peter Frano, the Slovakian kid who's coming over to the U.S. to race for the first time. Those are my top 3. You want to give yours?
Yeah, for the men.
Yeah,
men and women.
Men and women.
So men's side, I have Eli Hemming, Chad Hall, who I think are just going to really duke it out. Daniel Jones is running the 50K, right? Yeah, I have him in third. And then on the women's side, I think it's Tabor, Jennifer Lichter, and then Danny Moreno in third. I think Molly Seidel in fourth. I think I put her
awesome.
in fourth.
Let's
just as an honorable mention.
Let's go.
Yeah, top 3. Danny Marino for the win on the women's side, Tabor Hemming in second, and Jen Lichter in third. On the men's side, I had to go with my boy Dan.
Let's go.
I've seen Dan run away from me. I've seen firsthand some of the incredible workouts and speed that he has. I got Dan in first. Plus I have to say that because I don't want him to be like upset with me when he's training with me for the next 8 weeks. Eli Hemming in second, Chad Hall in third. And you mentioned Peter Frano. We haven't talked a lot about him. So I actually stayed in Slovakia for a month a few years ago, and I trained a lot with Peter when I was in Slovakia. Incredible talent.
Really?
Young, fast, hungry. He's such an incredible athlete, and we definitely need to watch out for him tomorrow.
Third at the World Championships last year. He's been top 5 at CCC here in the U.S. for the first time. It's awesome to see young Peter making the trek over. So fun, guys. Maybe last thing before we officially wind down, breakout performers. We've already named a bunch of names, but some people that I'm looking out for. This Trayson Knopp kid who finished 6th at Black Canyon, originally from Alaska. I feel like they're just made different up there. You know, he lives in Reno.
Putting in some pretty good volume in this training.
I just followed him on Strava yesterday.
Yeah.
His partner Claire Rhodes was at the Big Alta earlier this year, and anyway, they've got a great group in Reno, including MK Sullivan and Helomino Faulkner's just up the road in Truckee and has roots down there too. So Trace Anop was a breakout performer, and then Anna Cassius, who we've talked about, one of those athletes who, is like primed to be a household name. She was 4th at Black Canyon. She's very, very talented runner.
Yeah, I think the only kind of wild card for her is this will be her kind of most mountainous, I would say, 100K. Like a lot of the ones she's run is like, the Javelina. She has a course record there.
That's right. So, that was an amazing run, though.
Yeah. So like the flatter, faster stuff. So this is definitely more climbing in the 100K that she's used to.
Any breakout performers from you guys that we haven't really spent a lot of time? I mean, we've pretty much been comprehensive, I think. But
the one I'm hoping for is Matt Seidel.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty close with him, and he just has this great balance of living life. Skis a ton, runs a ton, and I just want to see that come together.
I love that kid. Yeah, like after Black Canyon, he went on a ski trip.
Yeah.
And then came back, landed late, showed up at my house to carry gimbals at the Big Alta. Like his whole face is completely tan from skiing all week in Utah, I think it was. But he's a guy who gives back. He's carried gimbals for us for the Western States broadcast. Just a good kid with a good heart and great talent as an athlete.
I think the other guy that we haven't really talked a lot about is Seth Ruling.
Shit.
Seth.
Seth.
He's in the 50K.
Right.
He's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he's super fast.
Yeah, and the reason I glossed over him was because he's been injured.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he just kind of hasn't been running a lot.
He's always been off and on an injury. I mean, he was injured before JFK last year, and look what he did at JFK.
Two-time winner there.
He does a lot on the bike, and he's really strong on the bike. And he gets a lot of just really good cardio on the bike, and then he only has to do a few key workouts, and he's ready to go. And that's what he's been doing. I think he's going to have a great day out there. I actually have him in my top 5 for the 50K. Seth is always there, and he's an incredible athlete.
I'm so glad you brought that up here.
I think Moises Jimenez is running the 100K
all
too,
the
right?
Boulder boys. We got all the Boulder boys except Adam Murray. Shout out Adam Murray.
Yeah.
We miss you, buddy. I invited him to come help on the show, but dad stuff comes first a lot of times. So shout out to Adam Murray and the whole Boulder Boy crew, and thank you for bringing up Seth Ruling. All right, boys, any closing comments? Hayden, tell us about, you've already mentioned it, but 4:30 tomorrow you go live. David, say a few words about what your plan is tomorrow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow I have very limited crewing kind of responsibilities. I'm just going to be handing a bottle to some friends and just see how everyone's doing.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, tune into the live show. We have an incredible show this year. They've made a lot of upgrades since last year, and there are things that potentially could roll over into Western States as well. There's some new tracking that's going on, some new visuals that are going to be put on there, some great interviews with the athletes. So me and Keith Byrne will be live at 4:30. I'm going to be in the studio most of the day. I think I have an hour and a half break. That's it, the whole day.
Come on, slacker.
It'll be a long day, but we're really excited to give everybody live updates and talk about the race. And I'm going to share some good stories on there as well. I have a lot of knowledge about the course and the athletes, and so hopefully I can share some of that with the audience. So yeah, tune into the UTMB live. It's going to be a show that you're not going to want to miss.
You're going to be the Tony Romo or the Greg Olson of trail running broadcasting, an absolute natural coming in and just providing amazing color commentary on the races and on the athletes tomorrow.
I prefer AJ Hawk.
AJ Hawk
on the Pat McAfee show. AJ Hawk is a beast.
I was just saying to Ryan, because I was just catching up on some of the NFL draft stuff, and Pat McAfee is just the most amazing, talented broadcaster I've ever seen. So yeah, if you could be either him or AJ Hawk, you'd be in good company. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. It was an amazing show. So just in closing, just want to say a few things. A big thank you to our boy Ryan Thrower here on the ones and twos for all the production. Big thanks to Harmo behind the scenes too, who really helped organize and execute on all these shows. We're going to be back in studio tomorrow for sort of an instant reaction show. David Lam's going to be back. Patty O'Leary's going to be back. Maybe we could convince Hayden to come if he's not totally blown out from 100K broadcast. Make sure you get your fantasy picks in, fantasy.freetrail.com. Big thank you to Hoka. Go to hoka.com, check out all their great footwear, and play fantasy for a chance to win some of that footwear. Make sure you watch our video with Adam Peterman. If any of you guys are tuning in right now and racing tomorrow, what better way to get pumped up for the race than to see one of the favorites and one of the all-time greats, Adam Peterman, do a day of training. I remember when I did my first 50-mile race, I was camping out in my Jeep in Leadville, reading Born to Run. This is the equivalent of that. Watching Ryan's videos is like reading Born to Run. So go and subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're there, please. So live.utmb.world is where you can see Hayden and the live broadcast tomorrow. Finally, hashtag better than Boston. Best sport ever. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. For Hayden Hawks, David Lam, I'm Debo. We'll see you back in studio tomorrow.